Good day to you peeps. Liesl here once more, and today I am delighted to be bringing to us all the first video in something of a mini series, basically on all things colours. So straight in, how to make organic, non-toxic, beautiful wood stains that work with the grain of the wood to give a lovely natural colour, no nasty chemicals, nothing nasty. So enough waffle and straight in. And yeah, I am grateful to you, Mikey, for requesting this video. And I kind of requested this video for myself as well, because it is a subject that I've briefly covered. And it is something that I learned from YouTube actually many years ago, and have kind of expanded on over the years. And so yeah, without any further ado from me, straight in. Now, I have enlisted the help of our teaching assistant, Mr. Filbert. Hello, class. Good morning, Mr. Filbert. Yes, if I do seem a bit more nutty even than usual, it's because I have quit smoking, and I think that the oxygen returning to my brain has probably sent me a bit more bandy than usual. But anyway, I'm waffling, so straight in. I have enlisted the help of Mr. Filbert to help us demonstrate this today, and he has kindly agreed. So there we go. So let's start. Everything that we're going to use today, you could probably find in your own kitchen cupboards. As I say, it is all perfectly safe, non-toxic. I'm not so sure about the cheap coffee, but anyway, pretty much safe and non-toxic. You could actually eat this stuff. Yeah, and as we all know, I'm allergic to just about everything, which is why really I've sort of developed this over the years. And yeah, I've had some pretty good results. Looking around, I will show you. You see this Monte Cristo box we have here? That is a lovely plain, unfinished, might have a slight coating on it, box. Here's one we made earlier, if you remember Blue Peter, if you're in the UK. I never was a big fan of Blue Peter, but you can see, basically, that's the kind of result we will get. So it is quite nice. Nice little sheen to that. And I'm going to show you how we achieve this from this today, or at least the first part of it, because it's not a quick process, but it's an interesting one. And I do think it's well worth it if you want to make these things look a bit aged, a bit classic. So yeah, straight in. So basically, going back to our community build that is on the go at the moment, the green machine. And if you've not seen the green machine, if you go back a couple of videos, you will be able to see the first stage of the build on the green machine. I did think it would be nice to give it this kind of almost blonde, almost walnutty coloured fingerboard, as we're going to paint the rest of the instrument green. But I didn't really want to paint the whole thing green. I wanted the fingerboard to be a slightly separate colour, and I thought this would probably be a good way to go. So taking it from the top, being as this is some kind of spruce or pine wood or something like that, I do believe. It could be hardwood, I'm not really sure. I know they make these boxes out of various different kinds of wood. It doesn't have a very pronounced grain. Now, I do think it's nice to bring the grain out on these things. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. So taking it from the top, here is the fingerboard that we're going to use on the green machine. There you go, which is Scandinavian pine. So it's a very pale wood. The grain is not very pronounced, but we're going to enhance that, so it looks really nice. And the way I would typically start, and always start, is with our most basic ingredients to enhance the grain, which is basically tea, or another good one is bicarbonate of soda. Now if you're going to use bicarbonate of soda, make sure it is bicarbonate of soda and not baking powder, because baking powder contains flour and stuff like that. You don't want that on your fingerboard because it'll make a sticky mess. Yeah, I've never actually done this, but I can just foresee that not being very nice. So yeah, make sure that it is actually clear bicarbonate of soda. But my favoured method is to use tea. Now, if wet tea bags make you squeamish, and I did once know a girl who I was on a course with, they made her squeamish. Someone left one once on a saucer and I just picked it up and threw it in the bin, which made her feel quite ill. So if wet tea bags do make you squeamish, this probably isn't the video for you, and you probably want to take the bicarbonate of soda method. One tip with bicarbonate of soda, and I'll get on to that, is it does make an excellent job of enhancing the grain. In fact, it enhances it very well. If it's a bit noisy out there, I do apologise, but it's about 86 degrees today, which for me is very hot, so I've got all the windows open. Yeah, bicarbonate of soda, as I say, it makes a very good job of enhancing the grain, but it actually does raise the grain from the surface of the wood quite a bit, which you might not really want on your fingerboard. It's not a big problem. You can sand it down, and as you colour it, you will get a nice result. But just a word to the wise, whereas tea doesn't tend to do that. So here's how I would typically start. Now I've got this little piece of scrap wood here that has got notches cut in it, because I was going to use this as a fretboard. I might still yet, but I did think that these slots actually will help to sort of demonstrate what we're doing today. And I would quite simply take the tea bag, squeeze it out, I can move that jar, and just use the tea bag basically to just skim along the front of it like that. And you can see already it's starting to enhance the grain ever so slightly. If you look at this end, hopefully that'll give you some idea. Yeah, this is all unedited, etc. as usual, so all the pitfalls will be there. And just Scooby, as I would say, Scooby along the top of it, 2 or 3 strokes like that. Obviously these have been sitting here for about 45 minutes now, cooling down, because you don't want to burn your fingers, and you don't want hot water on there because it will warp the wood. Always have a handy old tea towel, and then you can just wipe that off. And already, I mean, I don't know how well it shows up yet on camera, but it really is starting to bring the grain out. You can see the grain just there, and where it's filled in the grooves, you know, it's giving it quite a nice colour already. And that is typically how I would start. Okay. What I would then do, because you do not want too much moisture on the wood, is to go ahead and oil the wood. Now, the best thing to use, if you can tolerate it, obviously, is boiled linseed oil or Danish oil. I would start with boiled linseed. That gives it a lovely colour. Unfortunately, I'm highly allergic to the stuff, as I did find out to my peril quite some time ago. But I found another excellent one you can use. It's quite simply olive oil, and that does give a really nice colour. Now this one's infused with lemon, and it's infused with the essential oil of the lemon. Now any kind of essential oil wood loves, and this also will give a very nice colour to the wood. So I would simply go in Got a couple of rags here. Just dab some on there. And I would do this on everything, you know, the neck, the box. If you go along the top, just do this end. That will then force all the extra moisture out. And as you build that up, that really does enhance the grain of the wood. Yeah, it will stop it from warping, etc. And yeah, basically just nourish the wood, because when we come to polish that up at the end, we'll have a really nice smooth fingerboard. The other thing I would suggest actually is between layers of stain and oil, is just to give it a little sand like that, because we are going to add a few extra layers to that, but just for demonstration purposes. There it is. Now, as you can see, Mr. Filbert has a plain headstock that's been totally untreated. But this neck I did some time ago, and it's only had one layer of tea. You can see the difference in the colour. The fingerboard is totally untreated and has got a horrible sticky mess where the manufacturer's sticker was put on there. So if we just quickly remove the headstock, which is the beauty of Mr. Filbert. I can show you how we will proceed with this one. So, yeah, that is basically the coating from the manufacturer, so that you can see the grain a little bit on this one, but other than that it's been untreated and you can see where it's cut. Yeah, so we're going to colour this basically, and I think with this again we can just use the tea bag, swipe it across the top, and if you go along the ends and these bits, you can see sometimes it will break the tea bag a bit. That's fine, just dab it on. The tea leaves, that's fine, they'll just help to enhance the grain. And you will remember from the previous video, we weren't too fussy about cutting out the headstock on Mr. Filbert, because he doesn't need to be too fancy. It's one we want to play. But I've kind of left him this way anyway for demonstration purposes, because we will finish him off quite nicely. If we just dry that off. You can see that already I started to lift the grain a bit, and it's starting to get a nice kind of orangey colour. Much more in line with the neck now, and that's the way hopefully we're going to proceed. So I'll take the other tea bag, just dab this part where we've got bare wood where it's been cut, so a bit more on the back of his neck, and go along this oak fingerboard like that. You can see that yeah, it's still pretty damp, but again already it's starting to enhance the grain of that oak, which is quite pretty there. Again, give it a quick wipe. Now oak, as we know, has a nice tight grain, so it's not such a problem having the moisture on there, but I still would take a little bit of whichever oil you're using. If you're using linseed, if you are using linseed, I'd say do it in very thin coats and give it a good time to dry, because I've rushed the process before using linseed back in the day, and it did make the wood all sort of strange and spongy which wasn't very nice. tea's made a reasonable job of, excuse me, I'm sweating, it's so hot in here, getting that horrible sticker off. But even better will be our bicarbonate of soda. So if I take a little spoon of that, just a little bit, stick it in a bowl, and about the same, about a teaspoon of water. Just mix it up a little bit. So you've got a bit of a paste rather than too soggy. Just dab the rag in there. You can use that along the fingerboard, and that does go quite a good way actually in getting off the horrible sticker. It might not come off straight away, but as we go along it'll eventually take that off. You know, if it won't come off, you can use denatured alcohol. It's quite good, or if you're in the UK, that's isopropyl alcohol. I find does a pretty good job, or even a bit of dish soap really, although don't really want to use too much soapy substances on here. But as I say, that'll, and that does actually really lift, as I say, the grain pattern. Now it can actually lift the grain itself right out, which can be nice on the box and that sort of thing. This is quite tight, so I don't think it will, and we're going to keep sanding it in any case. So yeah, keep sanding it. Kind of rushing through, but I want to show you, kind of rushing through, but I do want to show you one or two other things. So how we can achieve some nice colours on there. And that is basically, anyway, how I would start. And you can leave that to dry then. I'd leave it to dry for as long as you can bear to leave it really. The longer the better, yeah. Now, that brings out the grain, but we want to do some fancy colours. Another thing that I've found to be really, really good is this horrible, cheap 99 pence, so less than £1, coffee. I can't guarantee how absolutely organic this is. It's probably got some kind of colorants in it, I would imagine. As you can see, I've not drank it, although I probably would if I was desperate, you know. That's just me. This also makes a really good stain. Same way really. If we just take about a teaspoon, stick it in a bowl, and then I would use coconut oil, although you can use this still, which will obviously probably add a bit more of a golden colour, which is quite nice. But I would typically use just a drop of coconut oil. Now this is very liquid at the moment because it is so warm today. Just add that and give that a good stir. You want it so it's a bit of a thick paste. It doesn't have to be entirely pasty, as long as it's not too runny. Again, take the rag, dip it in there, and if we swipe it across the front of this, you can see that starts to darken it already. Where the grooves are, you can see that's giving it a lovely sort of brown colour. You can actually add some tea to this if you like as well, or you can mix the tea and the coffee together, which will give us a slightly darker colour. I'll go across the fingerboard on Mr. Filbert and just basically keep going, leaving it to dry periodically. Perhaps on the back of the neck a bit. Don't worry if it gets a bit messy, because when you clean it off it will be nice and even. Yeah, and just basically continue. Now there's not much to see at the moment, but as you build that up, it will actually bring quite a nice colour. Now, to brighten it, and by far the best, is haldi powder or turmeric. And as many of us I'm sure do know, but a word to the wise, this stuff is absolutely permanent. They've been making yellow dyes with this for centuries. Anything it comes in contact with, it will turn bright yellow, and it won't wash out. So make sure you're wearing something that you don't mind ending up bright yellow. Like I always use this tea cloth here. I don't know if you can see really, but there's yellow patches all over it. And it's been washed several times. So yeah, this stuff, it really doesn't wash out, but it makes a beautiful wood stain. Again, if we just put a little drop of coconut oil in there. Just clean the spoon off a little bit in the tea. You can always clean the spoon in the tea, and you can use the liquid tea because it will just add. Now I don't mind, because we don't want it bright yellow, I don't mind that there's a bit of the brown coffee colour. And that's it, just keep stirring it so you've got quite a thick paste. I will expand on this a lot more in the next video, but I did think that today I would just show us all basically how I would proceed. If you take a rag, it says Liesel, there we go. You can see in there, so it's like this. Just dab that on. If I just go across the back of there, you can see that produces a very nice warm yellow colour, which I thought would be nice for this fingerboard that we're going to put onto the green machine. If you put it over the top of the coffee, you can see that it does start to age the wood. I mean, that's quite bright at the moment, but as we go over with more layers of tea, coffee, and the beautiful lemon infused oil, I'd say every 2 or 3 coats of the stain, then put another coat of oil on, and leave it probably 2, 3, 4 hours between coats, or if you can, leave it overnight, leave it as long as you can. As I say, with this Monte Cristo kitty here, you can see that that scrap wood that someone threw out in the parking lot is the sort of thing that I think was used as packing for a fridge or some sort of like household appliance. This mark on the front I've deliberately kept. It's some kind of code that tells you where it's come from and what kind of wood it is, although how you read that I do not know. A little bit out of tune. But yeah, you see the colours that we got there, and you see this box absolutely did start out this colour. And that's basically what we're aiming for, right? Which I think will look rather nice. It gives it a bit of an antique look. But it does take a little time. Yeah, it's well worth it. And with this one, I literally forgot about it. When I was building it, I stuck the box on top of the kitchen cupboards, and I did forget for about 3 months. You don't have to leave it quite that long. But when I actually rediscovered it, because I was building several things at the time, I thought, wow, this has got a beautiful colour, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, basically, that's that so far. Another great thing you can use is organic cocoa, as I would call it, or cacao, as I think they call it these days. This is an organic one, as you can see, which I would use because I think the non-organic ones probably have some additives, and I find that the organic ones give you a much better colour. And this will add quite a nice piece of red, so let's give it a go. These are absolutely pure. You could eat this, you know, as I say, and you may well have it in your cupboard, so it's not something you've got to go out and buy extra. A little bit of coconut oil, same again, teaspoon. And you can mix these all together if you want. You can mix the tea, the coffee, the cocoa, which will give you quite a nice colour. But what I did think was, if we could get a sort of selection of different colours, maybe we could attempt something like a bit of a sunburst, you know, like on a Gibson Les Paul or something like that. I don't think it's going to be quite that sophisticated, but who knows? Let's see what we get, shall we? So if we just attempt our cocoa there, and dab it on. You can see that does help to enhance the colour. And I do find that as you add more oil, it does sort of bring the colours out. So there is a slight red tinge already coming to that. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, if I hold this at an angle. But already it's starting to get more this sort of colour. As you can see, this has had quite a few coats, if we compare it. And it's been waxed, which I'll show you at the end. But already we've gone from a kind of very basic sort of strip pine to something that looks a little bit more aged, etc. And that's just in a few minutes with a few coats. So yeah, basically that's it for the first video really. I don't want it to be too long-winded, but I thought I would show us that. We'll continue with a headstock from Mr. Filbert, so we can compare and see what kind of lovely colours we can come up with there. And I will elaborate more on this in the next video. So a bit of a hodgepodge, I'll grant you. I hope it made sense. Yeah. Oh, it is so hot in here today. I hope it made sense. I think so, but more will become apparent as we go further on through this little mini series. So that's it for now, peeps. And as ever, that really leaves only for me to say, wherever you are, do stay safe. Whatever you're doing, do stay blessed. And whatever life brings, keep building. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Okay then, peeps. Bye for now then. Bye.